Welcome aboard the HMS, A Bit of a Christie. Please take your seats in first class as you travel with us to play Soldier Island Stash. In each episode, one of our fabulous guests will be choosing items they would want to have with them if they were stranded on Soldier Island. So, which items will they choose? The guest playing today is international award-winning author Sophie Hannah. Welcome, Sophie. Let's start with Roger's record, one album or song you can't live without.
I would take the West Side Story soundtrack. West Side Story, the musical. I'd take its soundtrack because I couldn't possibly imagine a life without that brilliant musical soundtrack. And I would sneak in, so that the authorities on the island didn't notice, I would sneak in the soundtrack from The Mystery of Mr. E, because it's a movie, obviously, but it's also an album. It's been made into a soundtrack album. It's on, Spotify and Apple. And I couldn't live without those songs either. I'm not in any way claiming they're as good as the brilliant songs from West Side Story, although I do personally think they are, but obviously I'm biased. But I couldn't live without that either. So I would sneak in the Mystery of Mr. E soundtrack along with my West Side Story soundtrack.
Next, it's Vera's Volume, the book you love to read.
I would take The Black Prince by Iris Murdoch. I haven't read a book that has a stronger claim than that one to being the best novel ever written.
Now on to Lombard's Luxury, an item you shouldn't really take, but you want to.
Well, this is going to be a strange one, and you're going to laugh and think I'm crazy. I would take Trinity College, Cambridge. So I used to be a fellow at Trinity College. I'm now a former fellow, so I still have dining rights, and it's just the most amazing place in the world. And if I could take Trinity College, Cambridge with me to my island, instead of foraging for leaves and nuts, I'd be able to go into High Table and have a delicious 3-course lunch. And then, instead of thinking, how am I going to get off this island to the mainland, I could just go to the Porter's Lodge and ask the lovely porters to help me. And so there's many, many advantages to having Trinity College, Cambridge as one's luxury. There's a nice fellows parlour where you can sit and read the newspapers, and the reason I think this is the best luxury to take as well is that, it would really make the experience of being on a desert island very unlike the experience of being on a desert island, which is exactly what I would want.
Being on Soldier Island, we can't forget food. So what is your choice for Blore's Bite, your favourite food you'd like on the island?
Dim sum. Obviously not all dim sum, but if someone said to me, we're taking you out to a brilliant restaurant right now, what kind of food do you want it to be? I would say dim sum.
It's time for Armstrong's Amulet. This is your good luck charm.
I never go anywhere overnight without 3 things that I put on my bedside table wherever I am, and they're all little crystal ornamenty objects. So one of them is a palm stone, like just a round, smooth stone that you hold in your palm, and it's nice and cold, made of a crystal called ocean jasper. Then I have a little Buddha, a sort of smiling Buddha with a fat tummy, made of zebra jasper, which is another kind of precious stone. And then I have just a sort of nice shapely stone, which is an ametrine crystal. So those are my 3 good luck charms.
Next, it's Emily's Epistle, the best letter you've ever received and would want to read it over and over and over again.
I don't know whether I could boil it down to one, but since I've started my Dream Author coaching program, I have had hundreds of emails from people just over the moon about how it has transformed their lives, not only their writing happiness and success, but also every aspect of their lives. And those are my top favourite kind of messages to receive.
Something easy to carry now. Macarthur's memory. Your fondest memory you'd like to take with you.
Okay, well, I'm going to give you two, and they're both the same thing, weirdly. They are both the same thing. So I had 2 days, years apart, when I found out I was going to be published as a novelist. So the first one was in 1999. I was at Totley Barton in Devon. It's the Arvon Foundation, which is where writing courses happen on a regular basis. I was one of the tutors tutoring a poetry course, and I'd written a novel. This wasn't my first crime novel. This was my first go at being a novelist, and I did get 3 novels published, but they didn't do particularly well, although I still love them, but they didn't sell very well. But when the first one was out there and, trying to get published, I was at Totley Barton teaching a group of teenagers who'd come from Tunbridge School how to write poetry. It was like a sort of traditional creative writing course. And while I was there teaching that course, my agent, I don't know how she got in touch with me. This was long before mobile phones, but she did get in touch with me, because I remember going to the payphone in the office at Totley Barton and ringing my agent to see what she wanted. She may have rung me at home and my husband said, ring her or whatever. Anyway, she told me that Heinemann wanted to publish my novel and that I was going to be a published novelist. And I immediately was on such a high. It's not like anything. So it's happened to me once since, which I'll tell you about in a minute, but it had never happened to me before. It was as though someone had just got a massive syringe and injected pure happiness and joy and ecstasy into me. And for about a week after that, but especially that day and night, I was just floating on a cloud of joy that I was going to be a published novelist. And then that happened again. So I then wrote and published 3 novels, not crime novels. They didn't really massively work. Then it was a good few years before I wrote Little Face. And then I had all that problems with the agent and publishers saying no. And then one day I was on a train on my way to Bath to do creative writing workshops there and events. And my agent rang me. This was in the mobile phone era. So my agent rang me then a different agent on my mobile phone and said, Hodder want to make an offer for Little Face and another book. And again, that whole day and night, I was just like floating on clouds of joy. And those are the 2. Now, other brilliant things have happened since, but those 2 really stand out as the 2 occasions where I was so thrilled that it actually felt like I was on drugs.
It's Wargrave's wisdom next. What is the best piece of advice you've ever been given?
Rather than say a piece of individual wisdom, I will tell you the source of the most wisdom I've ever discovered anywhere. And a friend of mine introduced me to it. I listened to it. It's a podcast. I listened to 1 episode, instantly became absolutely addicted and an avid fan, and I still am. And it is a podcast called The Life Coach School. And the host and creator of it is an American life coach called Brooke Castillo, Castillo. Brooke Castillo's The Life Coach School podcast. And everything Brooke podcasts about, teaches, her worldview, her approach to things, that is the most wisdom I've ever encountered anywhere. And I regularly, if I'm feeling that I'm in danger of veering off and being slightly unwise, I plug myself back into Brooke and her podcast and then instantly get all the brilliant, wise advice that I could possibly want.
Speeding towards the end now, it's your second to last choice of Marston's Motors. What is your favourite method of transport? And it doesn't need to be the Jensen.
Business class or first class on a good aeroplane. Can't beat it. Absolutely love it.
Last but by no means least, it's poor Ethel's Essential. an item you use every day and would be lost without.
Swimming costume. I swim every day. I'm very grumpy if I don't get to swim. I have to have loads of swimming costumes because chlorine gets to them eventually. So there's no item more essential to me than a swimming costume.
And you'd be able to swim just off the island, so that might well suit you, Sophie.
Good. That would be great.
Well, thanks again to Sophie Hannah for taking the time to come onto the show and to play our game, Soldier Island Stash. We hope you enjoyed this episode, and next time we have the author of God and the Little Grey Cells, Professor Dan Clanton. If you have liked this episode of Soldier Island Stash, video versions can be found at the official A Bit of a Christie YouTube page, and we would really love to hear your comments. If you could also like and subscribe, we would very much appreciate it. As ever, I'm Hazel Jones, and this is A Bit of a Christie.